Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of Talking Threads, the textile innovation show with me, Jessica Owen.
And me, Fiona Harron.
This week it's all about plant-based material innovations, but before that you may recall that last week was our ISPO Munich online special. So to kickstart this week's episode, we take a look back at some of the show highlights with our market intelligence analyst, Jessica Basey.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Basey and I'm an intelligence analyst for the protective and performance channels over on WTiN.com. Here's a brief event rundown of last week's ISPO Munich Online. Day 1 kicked off with a focus on innovation and creativity, with the conference opening on a reflection of the past year and the opportunities which now lay ahead for the sporting goods industry. With that sentiment in mind, conference visitors were first treated to a session on megatrends, and more specifically, how the influence of the pandemic lacks the longevity of other themes. The session reiterated the acceleration of areas such as individuality and health, for instance, catalysed by the effects of COVID, while those trends adversely affected included urbanisation and mobility due to worldwide lockdowns and travel restrictions. However, looking forward, it was suggested that the key themes post-COVID will include regionality and neo-ecology, as consumers have further engaged with sustainability over the past year. And it seems brands have had these concepts in mind, with talk of local production, responsible consumption, and in particular, circularity, evident across the show's host of content sessions. A great example was presented in a collaborative session with Houdini, YKK, and US-based tech startup Eon. Trio explored the functionalization of a YKK zipper with NFC touchpoint technology, enabled through Eon's proprietary Circular ID platform services. Through giving each garment a unique product identification, Houdini hopes to foster an engaging and community-driven circular product economy by ensuring the product remains locatable within the Circular ID system. This is otherwise a challenging barrier to overcome when designing and implementing circular products, as the item is usually untraceable beyond the point of sale. Another take on circularity was presented with the double ISPO award-winning Cyclone shoe by On, which has a composition derived entirely from sustainably sourced polyamide. This holistic material choice enables the shoe to be 100% recyclable as one unit, navigating around the challenge of material separation and sorting once returned by the consumer. This also explains the shoe's lack of colour, with On opting to eliminate the processing stage of dyeing to both save on water waste and simplify the process of recycling. This lack of colourway variety helps to ensure a consistently coloured shoe on every production cycle. Set to be released in fall 2021, the Cyclone is also distinct in its subscription model of distribution. For a set monthly fee, equivalent to £25 in the UK, the consumer enters onto the Cyclone service, which will reportedly allow the exchange of a new shoe for old. Once the used model is returned to the brand, the materials are claimed back and re-enter the production loop, contributing to the build of another shoe. Elsewhere, Icebreaker ran a dedicated workshop highlighting their commitment to sustainable, no-waste production with a look at their fall winter 21 range, including the double ISPO award-winning Zone Knit hoodie. Designed to align with the brand's Plastic Free by 23 initiative, the hoodie has a fully fashioned, knitted construction of 100% merino wool, with the back featuring an open mesh knit for enhanced airflow. By eliminating the cut and sew process, Icebreaker say they've been able to drastically minimise production waste. However, this construction method is also crucial in performing the seamless structural transitions seen across the jacket. In addition to the body map ventilation zone along the back, front has a double merino layer, which has been engineered into baffle forms, each then filled with merino yarn. This is intended to give greater warmth retention and windproofing across the front of the garment, with enhanced breathability along the back, pairing well with overlaid equipment such as a backpack. In addition to the numerous product-focused sessions, ISPO Munich Online delivered a number of conferences and workshops analysing the upcoming potential for the industry. A key theme reiterated throughout, but especially on day 3 of the events programme, was one of the more positive developments over the last 12 months, emphasising on the opportunities associated with rising sports participation and, crucially, the importance of newcomer retention after the effects of the pandemic have waned. Highlights included a walkthrough of the key findings and themes from the World Federation of Sporting Goods Industry and McKinsey's joint 2021 report on the state of play, while the European Outdoor Group and It's Great Out There also analysed the results of their own consumer surveys. All pinpointed the accelerated traction of a number of key sports over the course of the pandemic, with running and cycling showing particular resilience in the face of sporting shutdowns and social restrictions. Expert panels, such as those hosted under the Running Symposium, reiterated the participation flux, expressing that a heap of new runners were engaging with the sector, providing ample opportunities for brands in footwear and apparel if the community could retain those numbers. Hoping to build on the momentum of the digital event, Mark Held, President of the European Outdoor Group, and Tobias Grober, Head of Consumer Goods at Messe München, announced the go-ahead of Outdoor by ISPO, scheduled for July the 6th to the 8th. Hoping to harness a community spirit for the hybridised event, which will reportedly fuse a physical meeting with digital elements, the pair spoke about a future brighter than just products, alluding to a greater focus on wider topics impacting the outdoor industry in future. So that was ISPO Munich Online. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Jess. Now, in this week's news, Oerlikon Nonwoven has commissioned a double-beam melt-blown plant with a charging unit at Wolf PVG based in Germany. With this plant, the company can now provide nonwovens for the production of surgical and FFP2 masks. The plant is also said to be ideal for the production of other filtration nonwovens in the medical and industrial fields.
TSG Finishing, a company based in North Carolina in the US, has announced that 100% of its Defend brand of water and stain repellent finishes now comprise plant-based technology. The new formulation reduces the amount of PFAS, also known as C6, by 1/3, and the company's CEO, Brian Rosenstein, says that the performance is equal to, if not better, compared to the previous C6 chemistry.
Meanwhile, Sympatex has announced that as early as this year, more than 25% of the raw materials required for its membrane will be converted to bio-based sources, originating from various organic waste streams. At the same time, Sympatex aims to ensure that the membrane retains its level of performance with regards to breathability and wind and water repellents. One of the first brands set to benefit from this development is Mammut, which is set to launch a Sympatex collection in the coming winter season.
Elsewhere, researchers at North Carolina State University have created a textile sensor patch made with conductive yarns that could map problematic pressure points in the socket of an amputee's prosthetic limb. The device incorporates a lattice of commercially available electrically conductive yarns and is connected to a tiny computer. The team tested the system on a prosthetic limb and in walking experiments with 2 human volunteers, finding the system could reliably track pressure changes in real time.
Moving on, and today's programme is all about plant-based material innovations, an area that is growing exponentially as the industry tries to find more environmentally sustainable alternatives to synthetics and animal fibres.
Yes, we're now seeing academics, startups and even established companies exploring what plants have to offer. For example, Pinatex is making leather from pineapples, C-Cell creates fabric from seaweed, and Mycotex produces a material based on mycelium, which is the root of mushrooms. Elsewhere, other companies are improving plant-based materials that we already know and love. Take Galley, for example. This startup engineers cotton in labs through the multiplication of cells directly into the cotton fibre, removing steps of traditional cotton farming and saving considerable amounts of water.
Now, one company that we recently came across is Faborg, based in South India near Auroville. The team utilises the abundant Calotropis plant and turns it into a vegan alternative to wool fabrics called Veganwool. To learn more about this, I recently caught up with the company's founder Gauri Shankar and his wife Ellen Sopp. So hi Ellen and Shankar, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you for inviting.
So when did you first discover the potential of the Calotropis plant for sustainable textile production?
It was in 2017, April. That was the first time we started discussing about this plant, and it has shown us many things that we did not expect at all. And then the potential of this plant replacing, uh, uh, polyester fabrics and all other, unsustainable fabrics which are used for as warm clothing. We wanted to have a complete, the plant actually had a special character itself by itself. Like the plant was uh, yielding two different hollow fibers that works pretty much similar to the character of the finest wool that you can find in the market. So this ability of this plant, we had to work around it and to find a ways to extract the fibers in the most sustainable ways. And in that journey, we found out about this amazing insect repellent that we can do out of this residue from the fiber extraction. So all this was a win-win, and it took us some time to figure out. I could really see because there was a lot of research about this plant in different aspects of the plant. Its ability to repel insects, its ability to repel mosquitoes, and the fabric was also researched, but it was left out because they did not see the full potential of this plant.
And never put together, it has the two fibers instead of one.
So, in fact, it has a bigger advantage when, as Ellen mentioned, like, it has two different fibers. If you see any fiber yielding plant in the world, for example, cotton or hemp or linen, it's about only one kind of fiber which you can extract from these plants. But this plant has both the fibers, one from the stem, another from the pod, which has both has same characters. And so it's like an advantage compared to many other cultivated fabrics. So I mean,
are made into fabrics.
so it's kind of amazed us about the by not just this discovery and all its additional benefits of using this fabric, that we are able to give a reasonably priced insect repellent for the farmers. That could change a lot of farmers from using chemicals to the chemical pesticides to the natural way of working, in harmony with the nature. So there are many potentials. Even the plant itself is an amazing plant.
Yeah, I don't think we have fully discovered the plant potential yet. So we are still on the journey, but it started from 2017. So yeah, now we are having something already on our hand, and we are continuing our research.
Excellent. And can you just expand? You were talking there about some of the properties, but can you expand on the properties of the material?
Yes. So the fibers are hollow in nature, and the hollowness of the fibers gives some kind of insulative capacity to the fabric. And Shankar, being in the textile industry, he knew that actually hollow fibers, especially in the wool industry, they are very appreciated. So these are the ones that are not heating you fully up, but they really regulate the body temperature, and that pushed us to do a little more research for these fibers. Yeah.
For example, like even if you consider when it comes to wool itself, like it's not all the wool has this ability. For example, cashmere, it's hollow in nature, like a pipe kind of a structure where there is a membrane outside and inside there is an empty space. So this kind of structure is appreciated in the fine wool industry, and if you see cashmere and alpaca, very specific kind of varieties of wool has this ability, and that's the reason we are doing more and more farming, so to increase the production. So for example, like when you compare the qualities of these wool products, they are measured in microns, how much micron diameter the fiber is in. So for example, cashmere fibers, the best of cashmere fibers are considered to be 14 to 15 microns. And alpaca wool is considered around some 19 microns, the best quality of alpaca wool. But our calotropis fibers, the pod fibers are extension of the stem fibers. So pod fibers are more finer than the stem fiber itself. So the pod fibers are around let's say in average it's around 10 microns, but you can see the most finest up to like 5 to 2 microns. And on the other hand, like for the stem fibers, and in average it's around 14 to 15 micron, and it can go up to 19 microns. So it has the character of the wool fiber. It can warm. More than that, it's more. It regulates the temperature of your body.
Well, it's very interesting how the plant has two fibres that can be utilised for textiles, both offering functional properties. And the fact that it has natural insect repellents and doesn't require any pesticides or water to grow highlights the positive impact that these crops can have on the local ecosystem.
Yes, especially the local organic farmers, as it gives them a natural fertiliser and pest repellent for their crops. And also it just goes to show how many natural abundant resources are out there waiting to be turned into innovative material.
Now it's time for a short video from this week's sponsor, Primaloft. And after that, we'll be catching up with SaltyCo to talk about its freshwater-free textile. Welcome back. Now, I recently caught up with Julian Ellis-Brown, who is one of the co-founders of the UK-based startup SaltyCo. Founded from a postgraduate master's course at the Royal College of Art and Imperial College London, the team produces freshwater-free textiles in order to free up some of the drinking water around the world.
Hello Julian, thank you for coming on the show today. So I understand that you and your co-founders at SaltyCo have developed the first ever freshwater-free textile. So can you tell me about this and how it's made, please?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. So SaltyCo makes planet positive textiles, and our kind of mission is to reshape the textile industry by introducing materials from these out of salt tolerant plants, which are grown in these blue carbon ecosystems. And what that means is blue carbon ecosystems are kind of salt marshes, these sort of saline, hardy environments, and they're home to a set of plants called halophytes. And what we recognized is that these halophytes have a series of properties that are really, really beneficial to the planet. So they sequester, absorb huge amounts of carbon dioxide. They can offer sort of flood resistance to plains and things like that. And they also are incredibly salt tolerant, which means critically that they don't need fresh water to grow. And when only 3%, well, less than 3% of the world's water is fresh water, and it's going to be the next sort of accelerating crisis on us, that's great when it comes to textiles, because textiles consume huge amounts of fresh water. It's also a heavy carbon polluting industry. And so what we do is we extract fibers from these plants grown in these ecosystems, and then we process them into our natural textiles.
Okay, sounds very cool. So what are the applications then for your textile? I mean, what is it similar to, and are you working on any products that you can make, or are you collaborating with anyone?
Yeah, so our first product is called BioPuff, and it's essentially a plant-based fiber filler as an alternative to goose down or synthetic stuffings. And we are currently working with a variety of brands. I probably won't mention any names yet, but our first sort of showcase capsule collection will be launching this autumn winter. So keep your eyes peeled for that one.
Will do. And I understand that SaltyCo actually won the Vogue Award for Sustainable Innovation recently. So clearly your product is making an impact. How do you feel about winning that, and what are the next steps for you guys from here?
Yeah, so it was a real honor to be part of that competition. We were amazed when we got to the final, and we were amongst really other amazing companies. And so to then win that was really incredible. And it's been really great because it's also opened up a series of doors for us as well. We're working with the Vogue and Ukes teams now to sort of engage our mission, to sort of make it reality. They've got loads and loads of resources. They've been really helpful with us. And looking into the future, we're now setting out like a real sort of structured plan as to how we can start really making a difference and start converting more and more of the kind of textile supply chain to being from these blue carbon ecosystems, which are far more beneficial to the environment than typical sort of petroleum or other animal-based alternatives.
Okay. Finally then, more and more startups like yours, like SaltyCo, are emerging with very cool sustainable innovations, but many of them struggle to go from concept to commercialization, or to even get as far as you guys have. So in your opinion, what needs to change so that companies like yours can succeed and contribute to a more sustainable future?
Well, I think it's probably a couple of things. So on the one hand, I mean, funding is always a big issue. Innovating new materials is expensive, a lot more expensive than many tech startups which you'll have nowadays. Fortunately, we are seeing a trend from both the public and private sector to make sort of funding more available for startups and people to for people to really believe in what we're doing and the mission and the impact that we're able to have. And then the other side of things is, of course, the willingness and the acceleration of industry to start engaging with these materials on a much more serious basis and really put their weight behind it as well. Because with the acuteness of the kind of climate crisis that we're facing, we can't afford to be kind of greenwashing. We can't afford to be not sort of putting our foot to the gas on turning a lot of these materials to be more sustainable. So yeah, there's probably many things that can be done to help that.
Now, it's such an interesting company, I think, and the team is tackling such an important issue regarding freshwater scarcity. It seems like such an obvious solution to process salt-tolerant plants that I can't believe no one else is doing it or that we can think of.
Yeah, definitely. And it's exciting to hear that the company is now working with a variety of brands and will be launching a collection later on in the year. And as I mentioned in the interview, there are many startups with brilliant ideas, but not all of them are successful. So I can't wait to follow SaltyCo's journey, and I really hope they can make an impact.
Well, that's all we've got time for in this week's show, but join us again next week when we'll be taking a look at the sustainable finishing sector. Once again, we have a couple of great guests lined up, so be sure to tune in at the usual time of 3 p.m. UTC.
See you then.